So thank you all for coming to the Inspire series at the Harvard India Conference. We're incredibly excited to present to you leaders from across industries, the government, and academia who will share their aspirations for India in 2030 and how their own professional and personal journeys map towards that.
Let me just take a minute to introduce the format, because this is a bit different from any of the other events today. This will be a series of 6 TED-style talks. So that means each speaker will be getting up here and presenting their talk. Most of the speakers will take your questions afterwards. As you can see, there are standing microphones around. So please, at the end of their talk, if there's time for questions, stand up in line to ask a couple questions. We'll have about 5 minutes for questions for people who are willing to take them.
Okay, I'm not audible, James. Okay. Okay, start. My introduction is up here. James, the video can start. Well, ignore that. Oh, James, sorry. James, where's the sound? James, you'll have to do it again. James, take me to the start. Don't get nervous.
The global leading holistic health guru, भारत में equipment free trading के अग्रदूत, 24 घंटों में सुनी सिखाने के विश्व रिकॉर्ड होल्डर, भारतीय टेलीविजन और रेडियो पर वेलनेस को लाने वाले पहले शख्स, वेलनेस जॉनर में सोशल मीडिया की बादशाह, होलिस्टिक हेल्थ कैटेगरी में विकिपीडिया पर आने वाले एकमात्र एशियन जिन्होंने ट्रेन किया है बॉलीवुड के सितारों को, बड़े बड़े रईसों को, जाने माने नेताओं को और मुंबई पुलिस को, जिन्होंने भारत को कई मिस वर्ल्ड और मिस यूनिवर्स दिए, भारत के सबसे बड़े होलिस्टिक हेल्थ मॉडल के संचालक, an author, a philosopher, an institution, the brand, the dream life coach, the legendary Mickey Mehta. All right.
James, light on. Lights on. Okay. Good afternoon to you, everybody. You know something? There is corruption at Harvard also. James, now. James, higher. My dream is to fly for a rainbow so high. Hi. Listen, James, I want my freedom, my hands free. Let me try. Sorry. My device is off. I turned it on. What happened? Okay. We will try. This happens at Harvard also. Hi. Is it okay? Okay. Okay, you can switch the other one off. So I said there is corruption at Harvard 1 hour to speak. Unfair. But you saw his fan following? Wow, it's truly a hero. I'm sure Mr. Amitabh Bachchan would have got a complex out. Okay, so now since we are told that we have only 18 minutes, of which 3 minutes are gone, and I'm going to take 3 extra, it is on your marks, get set, go. My time starts now. So the title of my speech is Harlem to Harvard. Great inspiration. A bit of my life story. But before that, let me tell you, hello Harvard, here I come. To teach you what to be and what to become. To tell you about the paths, also about the sum. I will get you energized, I'll get you naturalized, I'll get you optimized, I'll get you maximized, I'll get you minimized. So I was born 1962. I was born in the heart of a red light district, red light area. In Bombay, it is called Falkland Road Playhouse. In colloquial terms, it's called Pilla House. There was a small Parsi community nestled in that area, which couldn't move out in time, and before my parents decided to move out, it was already too late. But here is a guy from Rancho, the Harlem of India, and the depths of it. If we see the amount of lights in the ceiling out here, they are certainly finite. But if you look at the sky, the infinite expanse, there is room for every star on this earth or in this universe to shine, to find his, her place there. So, don't get burdened by competition, find your own niche, you will shine, you can shine, and there is enough room for everybody out there to be there. Okay. There are 2 most important days in one's life. That's what Mark Twain said. Day 1, the day that you're born. And second, the day you realize why. Well, I've realized my purpose, and it has been a journey of exploration. It's been a process of learning, and I've realized that I'm here to heal people, but not in a saffron robe, but to help people heal themselves, to facilitate, to enlighten them, to make them aware that within them there is potential to be and become whatever they wish to, most sound, most vibrant, most great. Well, there is ladder of evolution, and what theory and philosophy I espouse is not weight loss, that's passing. 6 packs, we must probably refer to, assembly line, because machines are born there, perfect beings are born there. Here I refer to health, healing, wellness, well-being as a ladder of evolution, and at the most bottom of it is fitness. So fitness gives you strength, stamina, agility, muscle fat ratio, body fat ratio. Fitness is over and done with. Number 2 is health, organic soundness. The state of organic being, orchestration of all your functions, all your systems, and a balance. And number 3, there is wellness. So wellness gives you immunity, wellness gives you equilibrium of mind, wellness gives you emotional vibrance, satisfaction, fulfillment, and wellness gives you clarity of thought. Wellness gives you a good night's sleep. Wellness makes you work throughout the day. Wellness shows you the path, it illuminates the path before you, and wellness gives you the courage to walk that path. And at the crescendo is well-being on the ladder of evolution. Well-being, apart from all the things that you've got at the bottom, at the level of well-being, what you get is compassion, benevolence, philanthropy, creativity, grace. it makes you noble, it makes you more refined. So this is what fitness, health, wellness, well-being can do to you. Gets you evolved, not just makes you lose weight. Please get off weight loss. And please think of larger things in life, because refinement, purification, so health, wellness, leads you to, number 1, cleansing, purifying. Number 2, regulating. And number 3, fortifying. Okay. One of the biggest inspirational things, philosophy, which I've learned in the process of this life and living is, never see a man where he is coming from. See a man where he is headed to. If you were to see a man where he is coming from, you will make the biggest mistakes by judging him. We have examples in the last 10 years. We have Mr. Modi, being a chaiwala, has become the Prime Minister. So where he is headed, very good. Well, we have Mr. Trump, who's destroyed single-handedly the institutions of the world, the media, the Democratic Party, and his own party, and he's victorious. I mean, a man's vision, a man's conviction, we have to wait and watch what he does. And, of course, Nigel Farage, who supported the Brexit. 2 minutes ago? That's it? I'm so sorry. Okay. That's unfair. That's very unfair. So what do we do? So don't ask why, ask why not. Now let me speed up. Okay. We must thank everybody who helped us. We must also thank people who tried and couldn't. But we must thank the most to the ones who didn't help us, because of them, we've become successful, because champions are born out of challenges. So I thank every such person who looked away, who turned away, and didn't help me. Thank you so much. No, that's not the end of my speech. Okay, so stay away from 7 sins, pale gas. Pride, anger, lust, ego, gluttony, avarice, and sloth. These are the things which can get you compromised, will not get you Mickey-mized. And choose evolution over entropy always. Evolution is the choice, conscious choice for you to grow, progress. And entropy, human beings, subjected to time, matter, space, light, motion, mass, causation, and effect, are reduced to becoming paranoids, humanoids. So please choose evolution always. Well, we all are extremely fortunate. Only one reason, because we are alive. For all those who are dead, they're very unfortunate people, because they have lost their chance to grow, succeed, and evolve better. So since we have our hands, we can make our destiny. With legs, we can walk towards it. With our head, we can perceive it. With our hearts, we can believe it. And with our will, we can achieve it. So you can become the co-creator of your own destiny. But seeding is in your hands. The season is in the hands of the collective consciousness. But do the right seeding, and wait for the right season. For those non-believers, I must only say that there is ignorance. Once you know what it is, you will believe in everything. Keep your minds open. As you open up in yoga, your mind's open too. And you begin to believe and see a possibility, a probability amplitude in everything before you. And yes, everything is possible. Because this is an inspirational series, so here I am. Well, towards the end, I'd like to say a few quotes very close to my heart. How many of you heard of Jalaluddin Rumi? Okay, a Sufi poet. I've been living on the lips of insanity, asking questions, knocking at the door. The door opens. I've been knocking from inside. Every answer you ought to have is available inside. Simply shut your eyes. Cut off your senses completely. Because while your senses are feeding you, you can't perceive the unknown, the unseen, the unheard. So cut off your senses, perhaps that's what we call meditation. Okay, one more lovely poet, Nietzsche. He says, we are led to believe a lie when we see through, so rather, when we see from and not through the eyes, for we are born in the night to be perished in the night, while our souls rest in the beams of light. So once again, coming to the point, cut off your senses. Look through the eyes of the soul, not your clinical eyes. Then you will get a vision, not an eyesight. Towards the end, I'd like to say, the woods are lovely, dark and deep. We all have promises to keep. Miles to go before we go to sleep. Miles to go before we sleep. Leave me a message after a small beep. That was my recording message many, many years back. So, there is a quote with the divine grace I wrote one day. Sleep every night with a wish to heal yourself. Wake up every morning with a promise to heal the world. Every one of you here can heal every other. You can heal through fashion. Manish taught me how to wear pink and red and pink together. I mean, this is the fourth time in 22 years that we are meeting. The first time we met was when he took me to Aditya Chopra's house. The second time we bumped in Dubai. The third time at China NC's show. And fourth time here. 4 years, 22 years, four times. Wow. And of course, my glow comes from Vandana Luthra ji. She has taught the world how to be radiant and vibrant. Thank you so much for being my karmic partners in this journey. And thank you to so very many people here. So this is the journey of Harlem to Harvard. A boy of Grant Road, born in 1962, today has reached Harvard. And I thank my dear friend Sarthak Mishra. Where is he? Hands up. Is he here? You've ditched me. He's a second-year student at Harvard. He's a big genius, a brat, and it is because of him that I'm here. And if there are any questions, I'll answer only one. Only one. Better be intriguing. No question about inner thigh, outer thigh, strong abs, perfect glutes. Anybody? Challenging question about soul, sex, spirituality? Please. Of course you can have the mic. Should I come down?
I like the way you describe the health, wealth, everything, like all together integrated stuff. So I'm a physician myself, so no problem there. So I just wanted to ask you, like, while doing all this wellness stuff, like, how do you relate it to the actual BMI of a person, or how do you regulate your exercises according to the metabolic rates and different metabolic rates and indices of the individual? How do you match it? Like.
Till date, I'm 54. I have never saw my BMI. I seldom weigh myself. I know myself through my inner intelligence, my inner wisdom. I listen to the voice of my being because my physiology talks to me. My biochemistry talks to me. Sorry? First of all, let go of all controls. Simply be. Point number one. Number two, live by the laws of the universe. Wake up with the sun. And of course, I don't expect you to sleep by sunset, but a little after that. Okay, finish your last meal just after sunset. Be a vegetarian. Always. Because I'll tell you why. There is no meat or animal on this earth which by consuming you can heal any of your diseases. But with fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, roots, herbs, condiments, spices, you can heal yourself, you can regulate yourself, you can fortify yourself. With breathing, you can become invincible by challenging your body, contracting, stretching, bouncing, doing monkey business, because that's the way I exercise. Doing monkey business, you can evolve, you can grow.
Thank you, Mr.
So I hope let's get energized, let's get maximized, let's get naturalized, and get Mickey-mized.
So after that very invigorating speech, I hope everyone feels Mickey-mized. I realized that when we started out, I forgot to tell you about the lineup of today, so let me just quickly run through our speakers and then introduce our next one. So after Dr. Mehta, we have our economist, Dr. Rakesh Mohan. Then we have Vandana Luthra. Then Mr. Amit Kapoor and Wilfred Alber. Then we have R. Madhavan and Mr. Manish Malhotra. So that's our lineup for today. And first, let me introduce Dr. Rakesh Mohan. He is a distinguished economist, professor, and policymaker. He joins us today from Yale University, where he is a senior fellow at the Jackson Institute for Global Affairs. He holds a bachelor's in economics from Yale University and a PhD in economics from Princeton University. You may know him best as the former deputy governor of the Reserve Bank of India from 2002 to 2009, when he was also the secretary of the Indian Ministry of Finance. He also held the title of Minister of State from 2010 to 2014, when he chaired the Government of India's National Transport Development Policy Committee. His book, Growth and Financial Stability, Central Banking in an Emerging Market, was published in 2011. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Rakesh Mohan to the stage.
After Shashi Tharoor and Mickey Mehta, how in hell can I inspire you? I didn't make it to Harvard. I probably hold the record of having been rejected by Harvard 4 times. And the 4th time, I didn't even apply to them. I still got a rejection letter. And they said they were following my career with interest. I'm going to talk to you about the Indian economy, the need for a big push. India has been really transformed over the last 25 years. I think everyone here except the front row was probably not born in 1991 when we started one big push. Life is totally and utterly different today than it was in 1990. Again, you ask some of the people in the front row who will tell you how different it was in 1990. So we've had 2 major big pushes. One, of course, was independence. And after independence, we got to a growth rate of about 3 to 3.5% a year, which, of course, was extremely low for about 30 years. But it was a huge jump from the previous 100 years, because that was 0. And so the first point is that, look, if we could have the imagination to jump from 0 to 3.5, that's an infinite increase, of course. We did have the imagination, and we did it, and we had a big push in the 50s. We then faltered in the 70s and 80s, but we then finally had our second independence. I was born just after our first political independence in 1948, and luckily I was there in the government in 1991 and had the privilege of writing 91 reform and designing it. And so in some sense, that is the biggest thing I've ever done in my life, and certainly given the rest of my life is not going to be as long, that I won't do anything similar again. So after 91, we then got another big push, and we've actually done, in fact, go a little further back, we've actually done about double the growth rate of the first 30 years, about 6.5% average in the last 30 years. So the key challenge to all of you who will be here for the next 70 years at least is, why can't we do yet another big push and go to what Shashi was talking about a little earlier, 8, 9, 10%. After all, other countries have done it. In our region, Japan first, Korea second, Taiwan third, Singapore, Hong Kong. We used to say that, look, those are all small countries. So you can't compare small countries with us big country. But now the biggest country, that is China, they have done more than 10% a year for the last more than 35 years. So we really have to inspire yourselves. I can't inspire you, have to inspire yourselves on what do we need to do to again have the next big increase as we did in 1950, as we did in 1991. The time has now come that we do the next one. And as I said, I was privileged to be part of the second one. Unfortunately, I won't be part of the third one. But why should we have the confidence? Shashi Tharoor talked about all the adverse circumstances that are present in the world today. But let us think of not the adverse circumstances, but all things going for us. When the British left us, we were literally in darkness. That is, the total installed capacity of the power was 1,362 megawatts in 1947. That's one power plant that is done today, one power plant. That was the whole of India in 1947. We had the imagination, even though those things are now derided, to build a Bhakra Dam, to build steel plants, to build power equipment plants, to set up IITs, to set up IIMs, to set up ISRO. As a consequence of ISRO, we're now sending up satellites and so on. But that was where we were in 1947. The literacy rate was about 12% or so. Women was less than 10%. Now the literacy rate, still not enough, not as good as other countries in Asia, is about 70% or thereabouts. We have a completely open economy, as Shashi talked about, globalized economy. We have no shortage of foreign exchange reserves. Most of all, we have high self-confidence. You all can't even imagine that India used to be synonymous with poverty. Again, we have more poverty than we should have today, but nonetheless, we have removed an amazing amount of poverty in the last 30 years. And why can't we therefore aspire, this series is called Aspire, why can't we aspire to have zero poverty, not 30 years from now, but 20 years from now? We have a diaspora, many of you are here, at the highest levels in the world. We have people who are the head of India, the head of Google, the head of Microsoft, head of Pepsi, and so many others, the head of Adobe, and so many others. So we need a much bolder vision for the future. What can we do? What did we do in 1991? In 1991, we freed the private sector. We empowered the private sector by removing all kinds of government controls which had been constraining the private sector to perform what best they could do before that. And the private sector has shown that once they are freed, what they could do. And of course, in a place like the Harvard Business School, that's exactly what anyone should do. The question is, what do we do now? I'll say something that maybe the Harvard Business School won't like, which is what we now need to do is to empower the public sector to do what it can do best, not what it shouldn't do, not what it can't do. What can it do best? It has to do infrastructure, it has to do education, it has to do health, it has to do governance, most of all. Let me start with infrastructure. One of the biggest failures in the last 30 years has indeed been the neglect of railways. Sanchali introduced me as having headed the National Transport Policy Committee with the rank of Minister of State. I heard Shashi Tharoor saying that when you're Minister of State, no one listens to you because you're standing in a cemetery. That's how I also feel, having listened to him now, that it was a mistake to have got the rank of Minister of State. I think maybe just Chairman, Transport Committee should have been good enough and not become Minister of State so no one listened to you. But railways, now, it has lost traffic share forever. Given the issues of the environment, given the issues of fuel and everything else, one of the things we have to do is really empower and really re-energize, literally, the railways. We need to corporatize the railways because, in fact, government has done something reverse, actually, that we eliminated the railways budget, which means that now you don't even know what the railways does because it's been totally immersed into the finance budget, the country's budget. So you have no idea at all what the railways does now. We will not be able to grow at the kind of speed that we talked about if we don't energize railways, which means that we have to almost double the investment annual basis in the railways. We need to do equivalent of Golden Quadrilateral for dedicated, in terms of dedicated freight corridors. The work has begun, but that must be finished by 2020. India doesn't even have, going to the next level of infrastructure, India doesn't even have even one mega port, even one deep sea port. A lot of the freight that comes to India has to either go through Singapore or Colombo. And therefore, once again, we need to have a big push in terms of setting up a mega port on the East Coast. And around the mega port, we need to set up manufacturing. I'll come to that in a second. We have done very well, relatively speaking, in setting up national highways since 2000. The National Highway Development Project, the Prime Minister's Gram Sadak Yojana, there's Rural Roads Program. But once again, even today in 2017, not every village in the country has an all-weather road connecting it. That again must be completed within the next 5 to 10 years. Air traffic. We had a complete transformation of civil aviation in the country, and we now have something like 60 to 70 million passengers a year. Looking at what has already happened in China in the last 20 years, we will have at least 300 million passengers, 350 million passengers a year by air within 20 years from now. That means 5 to 6 times the number of passengers. Just think what that implies for the number of aircraft whizzing around Indian skies. Just think of the kind of airport we will need to have, the expansion of the airports. Why can't we think even further? We will be among the biggest buyers of aircraft in the world. Why should we be manufacturing aircraft rather than just buying them to the United States or Europe? So there's a huge number of things that have to be done, but this can only be done with a concentrated big push. These things have to be done by the government in terms of also energizing the rest of the country. Manufacturing. We've almost given up on manufacturing. No country in the world which has grown at 10% a year, whether it's Japan, whether it was Brazil in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whether it's China, whether it's Korea, Singapore, even Hong Kong, no country in the world has grown for 30 years at 8, 9, 10% without manufacturing growing at the same level. We have somehow lulled ourselves into believing that the information technology sector will do it for us. There's no way. So we really have to energize manufacturing. We've been talking about labor reforms so that we have labor using manufacturing to manufacture everything that you buy in Walmart and you buy in Macy's, you buy everywhere else. None of them have made in India labels. You see made in Bangladesh labels. If Bangladesh can manufacture almost all the parkas that you wear, why can't India do that? And we will talk about labor relations, labor reforms. This is a political difficulty. If the Prime Minister can inconvenience everyone in the country with demonetization, and yet the people think it's a good thing to do, then I don't understand why more bold political reforms can't be done so that we do have this big push in the future. It also means urban land reforms. We've also neglected technology. No one, don't hear anyone talking about technology. It's amazing that we used to talk with scientific tempo in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Has anyone heard who scientific advisor to the Prime Minister is? He doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. Have you heard of any Indian scientists? Have you heard of any Indian engineers becoming famous now? We used to have them because we had a vision. We were not just talking, we're not just doing slogans. So if you're going to do manufacturing, you have to have a huge, much more R&D, much more honor to technologists, much more honor to IITs, and so on. We can also use a soft power to, whether it's education, health, fashion, connect fashion with garments, connect fashion with clothing, connect fashion with manufacturing to go further. And finally, We are going to have, after China, the largest number of large cities. Cities have to be governed. Have you ever heard of any Indian mayor? They do exist. Have you ever heard of any famous Indian city administrator? They don't exist. If I asked all of you, how many of you, let me ask actually, how many of you are willing to work for an Indian city government? One. I asked the same question in Bombay about 15 years ago. I had the same answer. It was a similar sized audience, the same answer. There was one hand that grew up. It must be among the most exciting things to do. Why do you want to work for Coca-Cola or Pepsi? Not exciting for people drinking Coke or Pepsi. But the way we run our places, they are most unexciting places to work in. So there's a lot of empowerment we have to do. When I said we have to empower the public sector, we need to empower city governments, state governments, district governments, municipal authorities, and so on, to be able to then enable the private sector to work and do what the private sector can do best. We have to do all things, you have to do all these things to be able for India to grow at 9 to 10% a year for the next 30 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. I think now we've heard two very different views on what will take us to India 2030. The first was about wellness and personal health, and the second is about India's economy going forward. Now we'll hear from Ms. Vandana Luthra. Widely recognized as a visionary in the beauty, health, and fitness industry, Mrs. Vandana Luthra is the founder and vice chairperson of VLCC. She's also a keen educationalist and social worker. She was awarded the Padma Shri in 2013 for her contributions, and she's won several other awards in India. She's also been featured in the Forbes Asia 2016 list of 50 power women in the APAC region. She was featured in Fortune magazine's annual listing of the 50 most powerful women in business in India for 5 years in a row. So let me introduce to you a successful entrepreneur and businesswoman, Mrs. Vandana Luthra.
Extremely delighted. Let me give you a little introduction of myself. My name is Vandana Luthra, and I run a wellness chain called VLCC. People often ask me, how did I manage to get into this industry? What inspired me? Well, all that I have to say is that I wanted to do something to transform lives of people. I wanted to do something where I could help skill people. I wanted to do something where I could make people healthy. I wanted to give people a new meaning to their life. I wanted their dreams to turn into reality. So it finally came in form 3 decades back, and it came in form, and it came in shape as VLCC. So what is VLCC and what it actually does? It actually helps you be healthy. So in today's world, I think it is very, very important for people to be focused on good health. We all talk about looking good, but more than looking good, I think feeling good is more important. And more about feeling good and looking good, I think being positive is more important, being confident is more important. Don't you all agree with this? So we put this whole concept of wellness and well-being together. So we work in 14 countries, in 121 cities, and we are 4,500 people that actually work together, out of which I proudly say 60% are women. So it's a great honor to work with women, and I think people often say, how do women work together? So I prove everybody wrong. See, women can do a wonderful job together. Women can actually work together to transform people, to make people feel good, and to change lives of people. We also have the skill development. We are a lot into skilling. So we have our vocational training institutes where we train people on nutrition, physiotherapy, cosmetology. So we've got all the talent together in the industry, for the industry, because we want to grow the industry. We want to grow the wellness industry. Being the pioneers in the industry, we thought that why should we not grow a business that would help people to sort of skill up, and especially women. This industry, the wellness industry, gives great opportunity to women to make them economically independent, to skill the young population of India, which is so large, and to give them jobs. So this industry trains you and gives you employment as well. I also work very closely with the Ministry of Skill Development and Empowerment, and also with the CII, and also I'm a part of the steering committee of in the Prime Minister's office, so I work very closely. So what is all this for is primarily to help people skill, help women skill, help the younger lot of people skill, so that we can transform India. Look at South Korea. 95% of the young population in South Korea is skilled, where in India only 5%. So there's great amount of opportunity. Women who comprise 50% of our population, they're not skilled. So if we actually skill them, they'll be economically independent. And what stops India from being a superpower? And in a growing economy like ours, if women get skilled, I think it's the best thing that could happen to the country. Don't you all agree with me? So do you visit India very often, all of you? Have you heard of VLCC? So what do you know about VLCC? What do you know about VLCC? Yeah, okay. What else? Fantastic. What else? Oh, well, I would say VLCC is value for money, gives value for money. It gives complete value for money. And what it actually does is, it makes you feel confident. It makes you feel so good about yourself. And in today's time, what do you think? Is it better to go to the hospital, or better to go to a place which gives you the knowledge, which gives you the information as to how you should look after yourself? So in today's time, I think prevention is the best cure. We keep talking, don't mind going to hospitals and spending huge amount of money and paying doctors. So why do we want to do that? Why can't we keep focused on our health? Why can't we just be focused and think about ourselves and think that health is our actual wealth? We run after materialistic things, but we don't stay focused on health. So I think we need to bring our focus back. So coming to the point, our Prime Minister has a vision of Skill India, Make in India, Clean India, Digital India, right? So tell me, if we remain focused here, what stops India from being a superpower? We export manpower, which is white-collar manpower. We export manpower. We've been doing it for so many years. So if we actually skill people, we get foreign exchange in our country. Agreed? So the need of the hour is skilling people. The need of the hour is giving people a new meaning to their life, making people economically independent, making women empowered. Women have the right to pick up jobs. Women have the right to work. And we often forget that. So we all need to get together to make India a superpower. We all need to work together to do our best. We all need to get together to make India a healthy country So we all agree to that? Do we all agree to that? So let's work together. So can we keep the floor open for questions?
Thank you very much for the wonderful talk. I'm Vinay Venkatraman, and my question is related to health and popular culture. Because partly due to popular culture, there's this obsession with body image. And how do we change the paradigm from looking good, I mean, physically looking good, to actually being healthy? What paradigm shifts do we need in our society for that? Thank you.
Well, wonderful question. Well, I think weight loss, losing weight should not be an obsession. It should be a way of life. Being healthy should be a way of life. And therefore, it is very, very important. You know, people normally don't like to, visit wellness centers. But it is very important because that is where you get the knowledge, and that is where you understand how you can actually maintain your weight, how you can be healthy and eat the right kind of food. So therefore, I'm saying in today's time, it's a preventive healthcare, and the segment that we've created, wellness and preventive healthcare segment, it is very, very important to keep very focused on your health. And I think visiting centers like ours is very important rather than going to a hospital when you're actually sick or to a doctor's clinic. Because if you actually look after your health and you actually, because I feel if you say beauty is skin deep, then nutrition plays a very important role. Nutrition shows on your face, it shows on your body. What you eat reflects on you, right? So if you eat right, if you have the right kind of activity, if you are absolutely aware of what you have to do, and then I think nothing stops you from being healthy.
Hi. I've been living in US for the last 16 years, but I visit Mumbai on average about once a year. Whenever I go back, I do notice that, if you look at the modern urban family, the husband and the wife both are out working for 12 to 14 hours a day. And by the time they get back, there's no time left for, considering health or fitness. Even if they have a good, healthy meal at the end of the day, that's an achievement. So do you think that there is more need to take health to the corporate level so that there's more awareness in the modern Indian workforce?
Okay. You don't have to go to a gym to actually exercise. It actually, you have to be conscious as an individual that, okay, I have to burn out X amount of calories every day, because if you're consuming food, the intake is there. So you've got to burn out your calories as well. So it's simple, like, you can use the stairs instead of the escalator. Keep walking. And we had, Stand Up. We had this campaign, Stand Up India, on our Anti-Obesity Day, which we observe on the 26th of November every year, which spoke about Stand Up India. So even if you stand up for an hour every day, you will burn sufficient amount of calories that you need to. So at least about maybe 50 to 60 calories you will burn if you stand 1 hour every day. So you just got to be conscious about what you're doing. And I think activity should be again made a way of life. I mean, 20 minutes or 30 minutes of walking before your meals one is required to do that. So I think today, looking after yourself is a necessity. So I think this focus needs to come back. People have lost the focus, I would say. Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to know, what about these gender stereotypes that these VLCC products reinforce, like the fairness creams and slimming? People are made of different color. It's natural.
Yeah.
By promoting these products, people who are not fair,
yeah,
their confidence level and the stereotypes, and especially these ads.
The fairness ads, you mean, right?
Yeah, especially the fairness ads, also the...
See, I'll tell you what, there's no there's no cream or there's no product in the world that can actually change your skin color. So, no, that's only, that's a different brand. That's not our brand. No, I'm talking about, no, I'll tell you what. That's for, no, if you read through the label, it says discoloration. It removes discoloration because discoloration comes with, with the sun rays. So this cream only removes, it helps to lighten your skin and removes the discoloration and pigmentation from your skin. But it cannot change skin color. Look at the label, read it through. Yeah, I'm very sure.
Thank you.
So all the fairness range that we have, or the white range or white perfection, is only to remove suntan. But you cannot change skin color.
No, the very word white or the very word fairness.
We wear pearls. See, we wear white pearls, don't we? So we say white pearls. So you just connect to something. Maybe it's just a marketing strategy or whatever. But if you read through the label, it's very clear. It says very clearly, you can never change skin color. So we're not doing any of those creams where you change skin color overnight.
So I think the question has been answered. Thank you so much, Ms. Luthra. Thank you for your time.
What is the format of this session? How many minutes do the presenters have?
So it's like 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
So this goes to 4:30?
Yes, 4:30.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that inspiring talk, Ms. Luthra. Next we have Mr. Amit Kapoor and Wilfred Olber. Dr. Kapoor is the President and CEO of the India Council of Competitiveness, Honorary Chairman at the Institute of Competitiveness, India, and Editor-in-Chief of the Thinkers magazine. So let me actually restart. Dr. Kapoor is the President and CEO of the India Council of Competitiveness, Honorary Chairman at the Institute of Competitiveness, India, and the Editor-in-Chief of Thinkers magazine. Dr. Wilfred Olber is the Managing Partner of Roland Berger Strategy Consultants in India and heads Roland Berger's Asia Automotive Practice. He is the Chairman of Roland Berger Middle East and Africa and a member of Roland Berger Supervisory Board. I welcome both of them as they speak about their future, their vision of India in 2030 and about riding the tiger.
Good afternoon, all of you. What I'm really talking about here today is that what is the real vision for India in 2030? And what do I actually believe that India needs to do to really be a great nation by 2030? Wow. And if you just start looking at a few set of things, this is not working, please. Okay, so if you really talk about India's competitiveness, India is actually ranked at close to about 55 last year, moved on to 39 this year. But if we dig deeper into understanding what competitiveness is, we need to really understand what is the demographic of what India is all about. And if I start looking at this whole idea of demographic dividend, as Shashi Tharoor had actually said, we are actually looking at a demographic disaster in the next 20 years. When you actually talk about the young, we should look at the numbers. There are 450 million people, as we stand today out here, who are uneducated in this country. If I actually go deeper into understanding these numbers, there is a severe issue with the quality of education that I actually have. Similarly, if you really talk about the population bulge, when you actually say that India is the youngest nation in the world, but there is a corollary to this, that India is actually going to be the oldest nation in the next 20 to 30 years. We are actually going to have far too many people over the age of 55 who have to be taken care of. If I say this, of course, within this whole set of negative view, there is an opportunity that actually arises that we need to be actually taking care of. But when you talk about these numbers, it's about inequality. Today, when you actually talk about some similar numbers that Shashi had actually said, India today has the top 10 families control wealth, which is equivalent to the bottom 350 million. That's a crazy disparity that actually exists within a country. If I actually understand it a little deeper, there are about 191 districts which have a Naxalite problem, and it is not a problem of anything else except have and the have-nots. It is about the disparity that exists in that part of the world, and we have not really been talking about it. We have closed our eyes to this reality. When you actually sit in the corridors of power, what I really see is that these people are not even blinking an eyelid. In fact, the previous speaker before The Economist, Mr. Rakesh Mohan, had actually said that India has actually done wonders with poverty. I absolutely disagree with it. Absolutely vehemently disagree with it. For a simple reason, India today has more poor than the sub-Saharan Africa put together. If you really look at the numbers, it's about 26% of India lives under the poverty line or below the poverty line. That takes it to about 350 million people living below the poverty line. So what are we really talking about? In percentage terms, it looks interesting that India is reduced, but in absolute numbers, we are absolutely in a very startling state. So what we are really saying is that the governments after governments in India have actually hidden behind percentages. They are not really talking about real numbers. The quality of life is fairly abysmal, but then that means there is an opportunity to really make a difference to the quality of life of people. This is the abysmal state of affairs that would actually be seen in most of the cities in the country. If you actually come to a place like Gurgaon, which is absolutely an urban disaster. In fact, it is a place which I always call that India becomes a place on urbanization to learn what not to do. So it becomes a great experiment to really understand how things can go wrong and how we can actually get things wrong. What about healthcare? There's a severe issue on the healthcare issues. In fact, if you really look at it, we are expecting that close to about 250 million man-years are going to be lost because of premature cardiac deaths. But out of that, 50% are going to be lost because of traffic jams. So what we are saying is the quality of infrastructure is something that we need to be really taking care of. If we do not really react now, we are going to be facing a very huge situation, which is going to be what I call as a revolution of sorts. The very existence of India can actually be a very questionable existence. And if I really want to look at education, there are people in the country who are not able to, Class 8 students, according to the USSR report, are not able to read and write the Class 2 text. And that is about 70% of the kids in the government schools. So that means there is an issue across the board as to what is the quality of education that we are doing. Going further, it's about performance of educational institutions. Quite interestingly, the institutions that we celebrate today in the country are the non-performing assets of the country as well. In fact, this is a world stage where I'm actually saying that the IITs and the IIMs are the biggest non-performing assets of India. And we have never really wanted to talk about it because it is great in, great out. It's not about great faculty. It's about great people or great minds getting in. So what about the contribution to research? Are we really doing that contribution? No. We have actually created institutions which are not really looking at things. Cost of failure is very high. We talk about entrepreneurship. So how do we change that behavior is going to be a big question. But going a little deeper, if you want to understand India, India has to be understood at its level of states. It's about a very interesting thing. India is not one aggregation. What we are seeing is the growth levels, which are actually happening on 4 states within the country. There is a whole huge social disparity that actually exists. Go deeper into this, you will see that the states which are doing better in terms of prosperity are the same set of states which are not socially very progressive. So the state of Maharashtra would actually have the poorest location in the world or the country and the richest location in the country, Bombay versus Gadchiroli. So what is it that we are really talking about? The whole idea, when you talk about growth as well, the growth is getting skewed to the 4th set of states or regions within the country. That's about Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. Quite interestingly, the 2 states of Maharashtra and Gujarat contribute close to about 40% of India's exports, close to about 30% of India's GDP. So there are very interesting set of issues that we are actually facing. Is this country going along together? It is probably not. And if I really want to make these changes, what is it that's going to happen? It is going to be about creating our cities which are going to be very strong, very resilient. It's going to be about what I call as we have to merge or find a way to merging the economic and the social objectives. The world of tomorrow is going to be about creating solutions through the private sector. It's not going to be about solutions that the government can actually give. Government has actually failed in many, many ways in our country. So what is it that the private sector can actually do? So the question here is the private sector will actually have to create solutions for the whole set of systems. But when you talk about the next thing, it's about tolerance. And this is something that we really don't want to talk about. India is one of the most intolerant nations in the world, quite contrary to what people would like to believe. We all talk about diversity, very interesting, but we are becoming very, very intolerant. And these are the numbers that they're actually saying. I'm not saying it, it's a report done by Richard Florida. So what is it that's happening to the world? Are we even looking at these numbers, or we are actually going to close our eyes to the reality of the world? In fact, how do we really set this set right? In fact, the biggest problem that we have in India is that we make too many assumptions. And the assumptions are very clearly, it's about us, of you and me, and how do I set it right? The first question is, what I always call is, that the biggest blunder that man made was the idea of God, or the creation of God. Please. Thank you. So please remove this whole idea in the intellectual revolution that we are actually going through and throw the idea of God into the dustbin of history. It does not really require to be in the human mind. The next thing is what I call as people are becoming intolerant. We should not be like a pile of stone. We should move ahead and make changes very clearly. But the last but not the least, in fact, a lot of people have been talking about bureaucracy here. But what I call for is that India needs the third revolution, or the second independence revolution today. We have become slaves to the demonic relic of the Raj called the IAS officers. How do I actually get freedom from them? That's a big question. Today, what needs to be done is that people like you will have to rise awake and say that we have to dismantle this demonic relic called the IAS, or the All India Services. If I don't do it now, India is actually going to be talking about the same set of things in the years to come. We are going to be talking about the same thing in about 10 years. But when you talk about all this volatility, uncertainty, and ambiguity, there is a lot of hope, and a lot of hope for making the difference. And how can we actually do that? This is where I'll actually ask Wilfred to come over and talk about how corporates can actually make a difference to the world. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think Amit and I are a very weird couple. He's Indian, I'm German. He's much more skeptical as far as India is concerned than me. He's an economist, so the glass is often half full. I'm a businessman, so the glass is mostly. This thing is gone. No, the glass is, can anybody help me with this, please? Right, so for me, the glass is mostly half full. The reason why I'm optimistic is simply I've seen India since 1994. I flew to India from the US at that particular point in time. I got engaged to my wife in Chennai, and seeing what has happened since then clearly indicates that the country is moving. It's moving slowly, I agree, but it is moving. I also believe that industry is where do I do pulse? Oh, perfect. Right? Industry is absolutely necessary to play its part in driving change in India. IT, we heard it before, is not going to cut it. It's not enough in terms of creating the high-value jobs that we need. These jobs will be centered around products, will be centered around the value-added services of products. And it's also not impossible to do business in India. One of the key challenges that we face, and there was a recent survey that was done in Europe, is that the perception of India is still not where it needs to be. When people were asked, what do you think about India? What does India stand for? Number one was yoga. Number two was Bollywood. Number three was Mother Teresa. Now that's not the kind of image that we want. We would like to have an image where innovation, production, manufacturing are definitely part of the kind of comments that people make about India, about our country. And it is possible to be successful. Many companies are successful in India. We have companies that manage operational efficiency, that are innovative around customers, that are aligned, that have the right leaders, and that are agile enough to basically be successful in a highly volatile environment such as India. We have, for example, Maruti Suzuki. They've been market leaders for a very, very long time. And the way they did it is simply by focusing on their mantra, and that's smaller, lighter, simpler, more beautiful. Osamu Suzuki was the one going through the factories, opening up drawers and telling people your drawer is messy. You will waste time looking for a pen. That time is not spent on creating value for customers. Get rid of it. We have Godrej with a clear strategy of 3x3. I want to lead in 3 categories: hair cream, hair care, household care. I want to lead in 3 geographies: in Asia, in Latin America, in Africa. I want to be the emerging market MNC. And they do that by innovation. They've basically taken ideas from their acquisitions in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, and used these to give us the fast card, a 1 rupee card that allows farmers to basically sleep one night without mosquitoes. We have companies such as Bajaj that understand that in order to be successful in India, you have to make choices. As Rajiv always says, you can either be number 1 or you have to be different. So instead of having a 100cc bike with a flat bench where you, your wife, and 2 or 3 children fit, he decided, I'm going to have a performance bike, 125cc, and my seat is going to be curved. Right? I only want my girlfriend to be behind me, and she has to hold on to me. Right? So there are clear ways to be successful in India, to use India as a base for make in India for India as well as for exports. So what is missing? Looking at the reaction that we had yesterday, I think most of you relate to either Bollywood or Tollywood or Kollywood. So I'm just going to make that analogy. What we have in terms of companies today is the equivalent to a Madhavan and a Deepika Padukone. Right? We have the stars. But now imagine you have a Bollywood film, 150 minutes, and Madhavan is just looking at Deepika. Right? Yeah, that's what I thought, right? So what I'm trying to say is, in order to make that exciting not only for him but also for us, we need supporting actors. We need ecosystems. We need to make sure that India's ecosystems are known and are creating Made in India as a brand. Right? That is what is important. For that to happen, 2 things are important. One is cooperation between the IAS officers in industry. And I'm much more optimistic than my friend because I'm working with those guys. Many of them are very motivated. The second thing that needs to happen is you. We've had the first take of India Unleashed in 1991. I think it's time for a remake. I think the applications for roles are open. And I'm looking for everybody's contribution. Thank you.
Ecosystem that supports public-private partnership.
No, I think public-private partnership has been difficult not only for India, for many, many countries. I don't know of many PPPs that are successful. I think what we need to do is, and it's a challenge, I'm not saying that it's easy, but if you look at our definition of SMEs, I don't think it's adequate. Even at the small and medium enterprise level, we need to have a certain size so that these companies can invest in scale, they can invest in training, they can invest in innovation and in quality. I think that's where currently we are getting stuck. We are okay at the top level, OEM, maybe tier 1, but as we move down the line, we are starting to fall apart. And I think that is what is required to really make sure that we create ecosystems that are solid and sturdy. We do have that kind of capability. If you look at the ecosystem in Bangalore today, around software innovation, even the IT aspect of Industry 4.0 and IIoT, that is an ecosystem that is definitely better than what you find, say, in a Stuttgart, right? So we have these one or two, but I believe we need a significant larger number to create the jobs that, honestly, young Indians want.
No? Thank you. Thank you for your speech, Mr. Alba.
Thank you, Amit and Wilfred. Our next speaker is perhaps someone who doesn't need any introduction, but I'll still make an attempt to give him one. Apart from being a stellar Stupasa actor, he's been an NCC cadet. He's someone who's received training from the British Army, the Royal Navy, and the Royal Air Force. He's been a teacher, a professor. He's represented India at the Young Businessman Conference in Japan. He has a degree in electronics, and he's also served as a cultural ambassador to India. Please welcome Mr. Madhavan.
Oh, well, let me just get set up right now. Big speech. So, first of all, thank you very much for having me here at the Inspire series. It's worked dramatically. I'm already inspired to be addressing this really august intellectual gathering of people from Harvard, a place that my mother thought I will never reach. But you know what? A lot of people have spoken before me and eloquently and described their dreams for India and given figures and facts that either are skeptical and, like Mr. Wilbur says, aspirational. But I'm just an actor. And I'm going to just give you my dream shamelessly, because that's the thing that I can do best. And by that I mean, when we talk of dreams, we have one of our greatest scientists and philanthropists, Dr. Abdul Kalam, and he said something which is very interesting. He said, dreams are not what you have when you sleep. The true dreams are the ones that don't let you sleep. He said that when you have that dream once, it's a dream. When you have it twice, it becomes a desire. And when you see it for the third time consecutively, it becomes a passion, an aim, and a goal. And that is the passion with which I want to see this fantasy that I have for India 2030. And Abraham Lincoln also was a dreamer. And, but he said one thing that makes most sense in trying to achieve this goal that I have dreamt for my nation. He said, if I have 6 hours to cut down a tree, then I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. There's a great philosophy in that. In this era of instant gratification, we just keep thinking we can achieve all these goals by just tweaking this, tweaking that. It's not true. I really believe that, that a missionary zeal is required to make that quantum change. That can make 2030 what I'm dreaming about right now. And just let's look at India as a country. What a unique nation, seriously. Thousands of years old of culture and tradition, many invasions, being ruled for many years, and we still somehow managed to maintain our identity. We still somehow have managed to maintain our Indianness, our beliefs, our faith. And, there has been, we have our drawbacks. There is corruption, there is violence, there is differences between the different religions and sects and castes and everything. But I can't help but think, looking at India, at the geography, that we're not doing really that bad. Look at all the other nations around in the world. Look at our neighbors. Compared to that, there is somebody in India who's doing something right for us to be called a growing economy and being projected as the third largest economy in 2026 and the most educated and young nation in the world. And it's still functional democracy. So let's first accept the fact that there is somebody, some people in India with the right ideas and the ability to lead the nation to where we are today. Under that assumption, we are also very capable of finding very unique solutions to the problems that generally the world faces. And one of them, of course, is the fact that we found freedom through non-violence and non-cooperation. Who would have thought that was possible? We have some other great... No, seriously, I mean, it was as radical a thought then as it is today. And one man in a loincloth with belief and faith and complete conviction was able to do that for us. You know, Mahatma Gandhi. And it's an amazing country of people like Mahavir, Gautam Buddha, and Mahatma Gandhi, and then Bhagat Singh, who also had a dream. He dreamt then, 85 years ago, that I dream of an India where no infant cries for the want of milk. No youngster is deprived of relevant education, and no youth goes door to door finding a job. Sadly, it's still a dream today. And I dream of a 2030 when this dream becomes irrelevant. I dream of a 2030 when everybody is so equally satisfied with what they're doing that they're able to actually devote more time back to art and culture, which is another great important aspect of our country. Now, for that to happen, we need to be a healthy nation. And when I say healthy, I remember preparing for a film of mine, which released recently, where I had to look like a boxer, and I had these, biceps and triceps that had to be there. So I decided just to work on the parts that is seen outside my clothes. So I was just working out on my biceps and my triceps and my shoulders. But you know what? I suddenly realized the strength that I had in my arms and biceps was not actually enough for me to look even fit, because it is disproportionate growth. It is the kind of growth that will not make you fit or strong, but actually make you look inadequate. And that is what is happening to India today. Everybody says we are the largest economy, we're going to be the most populated country in the years to come. And with economic superpower and supremacy in rocket and space technology, which I am privy to, and then the IT giants and smarter cities. But ladies and gentlemen, I really believe that more than smarter cities, we require smart villages. And this is going to be primarily what I talk about today. You know, a nation is only as strong as its weakest link, and rural India is our weakest link. See, it's important that that growth and progress goes hand in hand with the villages also getting onto the same train towards economic freedom, superpowerdom, all the terms that have been coined for a successful country. But that is not happening. The reason being, we're beginning to ignore them. We're beginning to actually believe that this is a very interesting line that I've found, where they say that everybody believes that they know what is required for getting the underprivileged and the poor up to speed with the rest of the country, okay? And we always start assuming that this is what they want. This is how we can help the poor and the villages, and this is what they need. And we can't be more wrong. Because when you assume, and as the spelling goes, you make an ass of you and me. I'm going to tell you how that happened to a friend of mine. His name was, he's a very profound doctor, a gastroenterologist, and he got a call from his patient, Mr. Abdul, who said, Dr. Saab, my wife is really, really ill, and she's got a big stomach ache, and she can't sit, and she can't sleep, and she's in big pain. Can I come and visit you? And he said, yeah, by all means. And like all patients today, he has done his research, he's gone into the internet, and he said, usko ye ho sakta hai, wo ho sakta hai. And the doctor said, don't worry, let me handle it. And he checked her out, and he said, she has an infected appendix, so I have to do a surgery, and she'll be fine. The surgery was done, he was fine, and Abdul was a happy man. 1 year later, he calls back the doctor and says, sir, my wife has got a stomachache, please do the appendix operation, she'll be fine. So Dr. Manoj said, listen, I'm the doctor, let me diagnose what I have to, please bring her to the clinic and we'll fix it up. He says, no, yes sir, fix up that operation date, we'll do it in half an hour and we'll be back, she needs her appendix removed. So now he's losing his patience. He says, let me do the diagnosis, Abdul, bring her to the clinic. And he's still insisting, and finally the doctor lost it, and he said, listen, I'm the doctor, and let me tell you that every human being has only one appendix, and I've already taken out the appendix. So please don't tell me how to do my job. Abdul waited very patiently for the doctor to finish with his assumptions, and then he shot back very meekly. He said, sir, I agree with you. Every human being can have one appendix, but a man can have two wives, right? So when we start assuming what the rural India needs, we do what I think is most dangerous. In my vast experiences of shooting in really rural Indias, and villages and small kugramams, like they call it in Tamil, really small places, I realized, shockingly, that the biggest financial burden for a person of this particular village, would you all be able to guess what his biggest financial burden is? 5 minutes? Hey, so I'm going to speak for 20 today. I'm going to reduce the number of questions. I'm prepared. Is that okay? Okay, so can you all tell me, anybody, quick answers, anybody know which is the biggest financial burden for a man in one of these small villages? Sorry? Theft. Health. Okay. No, not health, not the marriage of a daughter, not education, not, sorry? Liquor. Thank you for reminding me, but no. Say that again. Dowry? No. 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 Oh, let me put you out of your misery. No, I'm saying, what does he need financial assistance for? The answer is the untimely death of a relative, of a senior in their family. That is the one occasion he can't prepare for. That is one occasion where the ceremony demands that he spend a certain amount of money, feed a certain amount of people, use the funeral the expenditures, and that's where he takes the loan, and that's where he gets indebted, and that's where, to escape that particular embarrassment and humility of not having the ability to perform the function every year as is expected of the Indian tradition, that he decides to leave the village because he's made to feel inadequate. Lord Mickle had in 1735 had spoken in the British Parliament and said the only way to rule India is to make the men there feel inadequate. He said, and truly so, that unless he feels that what he has is lesser than what others have, you will not be able to rule him. And within a very short period, they proved themselves right. The rural India today is feeling inadequate. They're feeling like they're not even part of our country. And what happens with that is, they start then looking at opportunities in villages and saying better education, better health, better lifestyle, and no humility for not having performed the funeral properly. They decide to give up who they are and move to the cities. And who they are is what is more important for us to understand. Who they are actually the timekeepers and the bookkeepers of our deep-rooted traditional culture and stories. You should see how tradition and culture flourishes in a happy village in India. We don't have psychiatrists as a big fashion thing in India, and they still manage to maintain a great level of sanity. There's a great phrase from the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, where it says, dream but not make dreams your master, think but not make thoughts your aim. Meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. It's very easy to say it, but how do you treat those two impostors just the same? The answer lies in the tradition and the culture and the books and the epics that are so prominent and predominant in our country. The Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the interpretation of that in the subcontinent, the Bible, the Guru Granth Sahib, the granny stories. And you know how to handle the diversities and the setbacks, and you're able to sit back, reassemble yourself, come back and fight with the same glory again. And when you don't give a villager that, you're depriving him, we're depriving ourselves of what I think is one of the most important survival tools in today's world, which is the culture and tradition. So I dream of a 2030 where rural India is as developed as the rest of the world, was as aspirational as the rest of India, and where the villager is provided with the same opportunities as it is available in the cities. And after a hard day's work, a villager is actually able to come back, sit down, have a drink, put his feet up, and start thinking about art and culture and poetry. That would be a dream that I have for 2030, a practical dream that I have for 2030. And the dreams that your parents and my parents had when we were in college, urban middle class, where everything revolved around the boy studying hard, getting into a technical college of a repute, and then getting into a reputed management college, and finally, the green card. And if it was the girl, then it was a spouse with a green card. I dream of a 2030 where students the world over will dream of a blue card, will dream of having once actually come to India and study and imbibe the knowledge that we have as a nation. It used to be true. We were the first university in the world. Nalanda was a university where people came in from far and wide. So it's not a pipe dream. It's a practical dream that I have, and I think that's easily attainable. And finally, before I wind up, I think I dream of a 2030 where we have a meritocratic electoral base which selects its leaders and whose leaders believe that it is more important to serve with a missionary zeal to serve the nation rather than rule it. You know, there is another stanza from the same poem which says that if they have the ability to talk to the crowds, yet keep your virtue, walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither good friends nor foes can hurt you, yet all men count with you, but none too much. If only the politicians understood the gist of that line, we would have a progressive country by 2030 where we'll all be proud of not just the way the country is running, but also proud about our politicians. And finally, you know, I'm an actor. And the dream that I have for myself is that in 2030, I'm as relevant, I'm as handsome, hopefully, but if age was to catch up, then they probably would have mapped my face by then and used technology to make me look as young or old as the role desired me to look, and I'm still able to romance the pretty young things that will be part of the industry in 2030. Well, I see that's got many guys going, yeah. And finally, as an actor, I'm used and prone to dialogues. I love to speak dialogues, and I recently found a line that blew me apart, and I thought was a phenomenal Hindi film dialogue, where this great gentleman has said that whatever I am today, and all the achievements that has been possible by me, and what will eventually also be possible by me in the near future, is all because of my angel mother. Do you know who said that? Do you know who said that? Shockingly, Abraham Lincoln. So I dream of a 2030 where every Indian says the exact same thing about his mother, and not just about his mother, but also about his motherland. And also, for the sake of posterity, about his mother-in-law. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, what do I know? I am an actor. Thank you very much for your patient hearing, and if I'm looking wise enough, I'm open to questions.
Okay, wait, okay, is this, okay, it works. Okay, sorry, I wrote my question down. Okay.
Give us some water.
Okay, sorry. I've been trying to do this for 2 days. I've been low-key stalking you. Okay, first of all, I want to say I'm a huge fan. I wrote it down. I look weird. Okay, first of all, I'm a Tamil American, but I grew up on Ale Payute and Minale, and I'm like a huge fan of yours. And I have a question, and it is, given that you have, this is an actor-related question because you're an actor, given that you have done a very good job at portraying diverse aspects of the Tamil experience in Kollywood, in recent years, Bollywood actors have started trying to represent South Indians, especially Tamils and Tamil Brahmins. Would you be interested in or feel pressured into taking on a stereotypical South Indian role if offered to you?
Do I dare ask her to repeat that? Because I couldn't hear you properly. I'm so sorry. No, I understood just the question, if you can tell me, please.
Sorry. Okay. Would you be interested, if offered to you in Bollywood, to take on a Tamil Brahmin or a South Indian role in general?
Will I be willing to take on a South Indian Brahmin or a Tamil role in a Hindi film? In a Bollywood film? Is that what your question is now? Of course. I mean, if the money is right.
But would you be worried about maybe being in a stereotypical
No, I think, it's a very honest question, but I think this stereotypical is too burdened a word for everything that we use today. It's politically correct and everything, but it doesn't really have any effect, in my opinion, because I'll tell you, I have to listen to a story, I have to be convinced that this is going to work for my audiences, and I have to be convinced that the producer is able to pay me by the end of the day, and lo and behold, I am a Tamil Brahmin in a Hindi film, no problem, really. Well, thank you so much for your for the excitement.
Hi.
Hi.
So I actually wanted to ask you this yesterday, but there was like a mob, so.
So this doesn't qualify. This is yesterday's question.
Yeah, exactly. So my name is Pranati, and I actually grew up in Mumbai, like a lot of other people, and watched a lot of your movies. And I'm a vegetarian as well.
Okay.
So I really admired how you advocated for animal rights. So, but my question's actually about Three Idiots. So you spoke about how a lot of your acting roles was based on your experience. So I was wondering, because Three Idiots really does touch on a really important point that in the Indian education system, there is a lot of pressure, and this pressure can result in a lot of suicides by students. So I was wondering, how did your personal experience, because you did mention how you knew from the start that you did not want to be an engineer, so how did you channel that into your acting?
Okay, so thank you for the question. See, the thing is, what I tried to show in Three Idiots was actually what happened at home. My dad was distraught that I didn't want to pursue engineering as a career or even join an engineering college, and I had to tell him that I knew what I didn't want to do is not become an engineer. Well, let me tell you this, the things that we said about in Three Idiots. You know, I do agree that there's undue pressure on the education system and amongst the families for their children to excel. But that's not necessarily bad. I think it's important to have pressure at that age. I don't think that an examination and failing an exam because you were not able to reproduce what you remembered at the right time, at that particular moment of time in your life, is a measure of how successful you will be the rest of your life. But it's also a measure of your tenacity to be able to reproduce that under pressure, which is going to be something that you'll be doing every day of your professional life. So, yeah, let's not underrate that pressure. But at the same time, I think it's important for parents to know that that is not the be-all and end-all, and that is not a death warrant that you've signed just because you flunked on a particular subject. Thank you. I'm done. Well, thank you so much for the patient hearing, and have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Now I would like to introduce our final speaker in this segment, Manish Malhotra. He has defined Indian fashion across cinema, the runways, and across the world. His strong sense of color and design has made him the first choice of the most striking personalities across film, politics, business, and society in India and abroad. Besides designing for countless Bollywood stars, he's also styled Michael Jackson, Reese Witherspoon, and the Princess of Riyadh, among others. He not only established his foothold in the film industry by winning the first Filmfare Award for his film Rangila in 1996, but he has also redefined everyday fashion through his labels. In 2005, he launched Manish Malhotra, synonymous with opulent contemporary and bridal wear. His collections are inspired by craftsmanship, and he continues to give back to local communities through his work. So without further ado, let me welcome to the stage Manish Malhotra.
It all started with the movies. Even today, it's what inspires me to dream and keep believing in that dream. Just watching the way cloth would turn into costume and tell a story grabbed my imagination. So I sketched and never stopped. People always ask me how I made it from a costume designer to an international label. The truth is I didn't. We did. A team of creative minds finding inspiration in just about anything, adding, subtracting, deliberating on the minutest detail, choosing that perfect fabric, meticulously crafting every cut, embellishing it, bringing it to life in all its exuberance. But it's still far from done. There's fittings and finishing touches. Meanwhile, there are others coordinating with people halfway across the world, reading outlets. After all, we want the whole world to see what we create. You don't always know what you're looking for, but when you see it, something just clicks. And as we watch it sashay down the ramp, elegant, graceful, in all its glory, we realize together we made another dream come alive yet again.
Good evening, everyone. And that wasn't a presentation, it was a film made by Google on my work, so just to clarify that. Harvard, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me because I am not educated. Can you hear me? Is it on now? Should I take a freehand mic? Should I try this? Can you hear me now? Can you all hear me now? Yeah, okay. So I kept telling my assistant it's better to stand behind the podium because you look slimmer. So I prefer this. Thank you, Harvard, for inviting me here because it somewhere assures a person who is not educated, who who hasn't come to Harvard, who hasn't studied at all. I haven't even studied design. And so this evening and tonight being with all of you all really means a lot to me. So thank you. Being here on the topic of Inspire Stories, many years ago, before many of you all were not even born, I was being inspired in movie theaters in Mumbai. For my entire childhood was in the film theaters. And I have to give it to my mother, who encouraged me and never stopped me from watching a film. I would tell her, I don't like your sari, there's something wrong with it. I like that actress's sari. And she would be like, what's wrong with you? Okay, go and see a film again. So she truly encouraged me. And my cousins are sitting here. They know that for a fact, whenever we met for family dinners, I would be like, hurry up, we've got to go and see this film. So my entire childhood was movies, and movies. I was fascinated by color, the clothes, music. I used to look at Yash Chopra's films and wonder, will I ever go to a 5-star hotel and have a meal? Will I ever have those kind of, when I saw a song of a film called Trishul, where they're playing golf, they're doing yoga, they're romancing, and they had these big parties in that film. I always thought, would I be ever there? Would I go to such parties? Would I ever meet film stars? Would I have this kind of lifestyle? Would I make a noise in this world, this entire big world? So with all those dreams, I came into college. And when I was in college, I started watching English films. So it was always movies for me. The only good thing that I did in school, because I was a real bad student, was that I enrolled myself into a drawing class. And that's where I learned painting, I learned drawing, sketching, and fascinated with it, I kept getting better and better. When I was in college, one day somebody offered me a modeling assignment, and I was like, I can model? Are you sure? So they said, you can. So I was very excited with that, and I started modeling. At the age of 19, I told my father that I haven't even been abroad. So I want to see the world. Otherwise, how will I make something out of my life? So he said, you're modeling, save your money, and go if you want to. And I really worked hard as a model. I used to take on every assignment. I used to not go and meet my friends. I used to be shooting every second day, taking every assignment that came to me so that I could travel abroad. And in those days, I managed to save some 90,000 rupees, and I went to Singapore and Bangkok for the first time, really proud that I could do this on my own. When I came back, I was so excited that I traveled abroad. I enrolled to Air India, that I want to be a purser. So when the question came to me, the exam that I had to give were all general knowledge questions, and I absolutely failed. Because all I knew was just movies. I took up a job in a boutique as a sales boy. My parents they were absolutely horrified. They were like, what are you doing? You're going to become a tailor? Why are you a sales boy? Why don't you join your father's air conditioning business? And I was like, no, I'm going to be a film director. So they said, why not a film actor? Every Punjabi mother feels her son is the best looking and he can become a hero. So every profession comes down to movies, and you should become an actor. So I was in this boutique, and I was a sales boy, but I took it on, and I used to sit with the tailors. I used to learn all about a cut. I was very curious. I used to ask questions. I used to meet up with the clients. I used to sketch all day long. I used to keep dressing up the mannequin. And that's the year which is about 1988, when the fashion movement in India was just starting. Ensemble was a store which was opening, and lots of designers had come out with their collections. So I was very fascinated with that, and I wanted to assist Yash Chopra. And I didn't know him. And I said, so how will I become a film director? And my parents would become an actor. And I said, no, I want to be a designer. And they were like, that means a tailor. I was like, no, I want to be a designer. So I kept 2 machines in my house. I had 2 tailors in my bedroom. And I started working and taking salwar kameez orders. My mother was horrified. She was like, I can't believe I have to tell my friends that my son takes salwar kameez orders and come and give him orders. And I was like, no, there is going to be something better out of this. And I met a photographer who took me to Sridevi, who at that time was a huge star. This is 1990. I had just done a song for Juhi Chawla for her film Swarg. And I thought to myself, films is great to start with because no designer was touching movies. And they were all looking down upon films because the late 80s saw a complete decline of fashion in films. And I thought to myself, if I can make a change here, I'll be able to make a name. Since I don't have the money to go abroad and study fashion, and neither did I want to go to NIFT in Delhi because I didn't want to stay with my relatives in Delhi. So I said that, let me start working on films. So here I was at 23, leaving modeling, completely doing a stop at that to my mother's unhappiness, and starting working in movies. And since I could sketch so fast, all the actors started giving me a lot of work. And it was 2-3 years of running around. The producers' checks would bounce. They would never pay the money. And can you hear me? Yeah, so my father would be like, you're going to lose money for whatever you made out of your modeling career. And I was determined. I didn't want to go to air conditioning business. And I said, what is that USP that I can give to my work? And I came with this concept of styling. So I was the first designer to introduce styling in Hindi movies. And I started with what would be your makeup, what's going to be your hair. And all the makeup artists was like, why is this costume designer interfering in our makeup and hair? What are the shoes? And I asked a director, I remember I was with this actor, Ravina Tandon, and we were listening to a script. And I said, but no, he was just telling her that make some Western clothes for her, sexy. So I looked at him and I said that, but what's the story of the film? What is she playing? And he looks at Ravina and he tells you, how dare he ask me the story of the film? And I was like, I'm just asking you for this character. And those days, they didn't really etch out characters. It was, she's a glamorous girl, she's an Indian girl, she'll wear salwar kameezes in these scenes, or she'll wear Western clothes. I happened to meet younger directors like Aditya Chopra, Karan Johar, Ram Gopal Verma, so many of them, and came Rangila and Raja Hindustani. The makeover happened. Not that planned, but yet all of us greedy, wanting to do something fabulous, wanting to work and change the way films looked. And in 1995, Filmfare Awards, for the first time, gave a costume design award ever, and that was to me, for the film Rangila. And from there, it all started, and here I was, oh my God, it's only 5 minutes left? Oh, we have lots of question and answers, yeah. And then it was, from there, for a person who had not traveled at all, I was on a flight every week, either to Switzerland, doing those, if you all remember, if many of you all were born in the 90s, chiffon sari in the snow, while the heroes were clad in, mufflers and trench coats, and the girls were wearing itsy-bitsy blouses, which I was stacking there, and in the snow. And so I was in and out of Switzerland, I was in London shopping, I was in New York shopping, but I have to say to all of you here, that I think for me the best education has been travel. Learning, imbibing, watching people, watching different culture, seeing fashion, seeing everything around has been the biggest education for me. And while I was interested, of course, and I thought that was my life. My dream was fulfilled. I'm going to be a costume designer all my life. I'm already working with the best of directors, producers, actresses, actors. And came a very prestigious Birla family couple, Yash and Avanti Birla, who offered me a retail store. And I was like, I'm a costume designer. And that's how I started my store, and that's how I came into retail. And then I moved on to launching my own label, which was in the year 2006. And 2-3 years went balancing, movies and my own label. And that's the first time I introduced the concept of a showstopper. Fashion critiques criticized me. All my fashion shows had a very impressive film industry front row. and which was not really the norm in fashion in those days, and neither was a showstopper. But 11 years later, I can say something that today actors are paid to be showstoppers, and everybody looks at having a good front row. So there was a fashion and trend that I started, and work went on, and I was busy day by day doing more and more work. I love to work. I don't like Sundays. I wake up every morning at 6 a.m., and I dream all the time of what next am I going to do. I'm a visualizer. I manifest, and sometimes the manifestations are personal, sometimes they're professional, but for all those goals, it's always work. And you have to work hard to, like when Madhavan spoke about dreaming, for all our dreams to be fulfilled, you have to work. And I love to work. So when the label moved on, and we started a big store in Delhi. So I was the first designer to start a 9,500 square feet store in Delhi. And it changed the way my company worked. My positioning in the fashion industry became more serious. And we became one of the first 100 crore independent companies in fashion design. And today, when we look at, and I'm asked to look at 2030, I look at India, I look at Indian fashion to be on par with international fashion. I hopefully see a lot of investors coming and investing with Indian designers. We have everything. We have culture, we have tradition, we have texture, textile, we have great craftsmen. I run an NGO with actor Shabana Azmi, and where we had 40 women working, and now we have 280 women who come to our institute and work and do beautiful chicken curry in a small village called Mijwa. And I want to take a lot of the handloom, beautiful woven work from Banaras, Mijwa, and all of that work internationally. And I think a lot of Indian designers are going to be out there by 2030, and Indian fashion, Indian textile is going to be up there. And we all will be celebrating it. So I had requested that I'm not going to talk too much and bore you all. I'm going to want you all to ask me questions. It's all about getting to know each other. And whatever questions you all have, please ask me. And no gossip questions, though.
Hello, Manish. It's very nice having you here still. Hello? Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. I don't have any question, but I have a small suggestion, because for the last 2 years, I've been...
So you have a question or you don't?
Yeah, I have a question. So,
okay.
But I said it's a suggestion. So for the last 2 years, I'm deeply saddened reading suicides of thousands of people of handloom industry. So I want you to promote handloom industry and make handloom fashionable so that you can...
Well, I must tell you that, yes, there's a lot of attention being paid to weavers all over India. And in fact, to correct you, I think for the last 2 years, handloom has really been in fashion. In fact, you see the whole wedding industry is growing, and there's been a huge growth in the last 3 years. And I see a lot of brides today looking at handloom and textiles. So I think there's a lot of movement in India towards handloom.
Thank you.
And by 2030, I see it in all the fashion houses all over the world.
Thank you, Manish. That was really awesome. I actually took a picture with you yesterday, and then I sent it to my wife. So
did she like it? Did she think I was fat?
She loved it. So she couldn't be here because of the kids, but the question is from her. So I said I'll go ask him. The first thing she said was, "You have really changed how women dress in India." So that's a pretty big compliment. I don't really understand it fully.
But the women, Indian women generally, everywhere, all over the world, are beautiful. And for me, all the women are muses, because they do so much for clothes and everything.
So here's her question. She says your stuff is too good, but it's not affordable. And how do you make it more affordable and more accessible so that people, not just the stars, but everyone can enjoy it?
I'm looking at expansion. I'm looking at investors. I'm looking so much to work more harder so that I can grow further. I can have a huge infrastructure to make more clothes, and that will make them more reasonable. So give me some time. I promise you they'll be even more reasonable than they are.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I would like to request all.
But this girl, let her ask, but she's right there next to the mic.
Okay, you need to finish the question in 10 seconds.
Okay. I'm Ria Chawla. I'm a high school student in Boston. So that made me 1 year old when Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham came out. So even back then, I remember wanting that Kareena Kapoor Sharara from there. So my question is, even now you're modernizing all your lehengas, even in like the Badrinath Ki Dulhania cold shoulder lehenga. What sets you apart from other designers in this age in a consistently evolving industry? And yeah.
Well, I think fashion and style is all about change, and I'm trying to keep my work relevant and introducing a lot of global influences of fashion into my Indian wear, and so that youngsters like you can enjoy it, and young people of Harvard can keep calling me again. Thank you.